I'm joined today by the great Jim Meskimen. For those of you who know Jim, he needs no further introduction. But for those of you who don't, Jim is a friend of mine. Jim is a man with a very particular set of skills. These skills, among many, an actor, comedian, voice artist, impressionist, and also star of the hit series The Impression Guys on Soul Pancake. So, Jim, thanks for joining me. Um,
Thank you. Thank
I'd
you.
just like to tell the viewers firstly how I became aware of yourself.
Mhm.
It was when I was first starting to get into start wanting to learn impressions, and I googled George Bush impression, and who was the first one that came up but yourself, and just after that, then there was. I also wanted a Robert De Niro, and lo and behold, the same person, the same sort of standard of impression again, Jim. Now I emailed you. This is about 2 years ago. I think we've been talking for about 2 years now, and I was very shocked to get a response for you. So thanks for that. But I've noticed you're very in touch with the fans on YouTube, and you do obviously reach back to them, and I see comments, and you respond to a lot of them. So that's obviously a great way of reaching your fans, and I'm sure that's got you a lot more admiration within the scene. Now, if you could tell us about some of your most popular videos, Jim. I've mentioned the two, the George W. Bush and the Robert De Niro, but obviously there's a whole host of others. If you'd like to tell us a bit about those.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Thank you, by the way. That's very kind.
No
And
problem.
something inside me flinches pretty strong when someone calls me the great Jim Meskimen. I think that's very polite of you, though. Anyway,
No problem.
if completely inaccurate. But yeah, I've got lots of fun videos on. I have several that went viral. Not quite a million views, but almost on Shakespeare and celebrity voices. That was the one that sort of brought me out into the YouTube universe a lot, and I gained a lot of attention and a lot of fans, and that was great because I just was so thrilled that so many people liked what I did with the Shakespeare, a bit of Richard III that I have actually been performing for many years in different celebrity voices.
Yes.
And yeah, anybody goes on there. But I'm very excited about the impression guys. That's my real passion right now. That's a on Soul Pancake, as you said. And again, we're not doing huge, crazy numbers, but it's an original 22-minute show.
Yes.
6 episodes now are released. That's our whole season one, and we're pretty confident that there'll be a season two. So far, the response has been great, and it's fun because it's not just impressions and impressionists. It's also a story, and it is a kind of a funhouse mirror version of my actual life. For instance, today I went to Disney Studios, and all I knew is they wanted me to do Kevin Costner's voice for some film project, and so I got there, and that's what I wound up doing, and
Yes.
uh, that's the kind of crazy things that happen in my life. So the impression guys is, hopefully we'll find a big audience and may even wind up on TV, hopefully, or on Hulu or on some more television-like long format platform.
No, that'd be great. For anyone who doesn't know, I'll just give them a brief overview of the Impression Guys. It's basically a Soul Pancake production based on the lives of two impressionists, yourself and Ross Marquand. And obviously, there's a whole host of celebrity impressionists on there. You've got Piat Michael, Dana De Lorenzo, Christina Bianco, Angela Hoover, Angela Kinsey, my namesake. I don't know if there's any relation there. Um, Melissa Villaseñor, who actually incidentally found fame on America's Got Talent, much like yourself. Is that right?
That's Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right.
What
That's
was it
right.
like working with such a group of talented impressionists? Obviously, with that same sort of passion.
It's really kind of neat because doing impressions is a little bit of an isolated kind of a thing. We don't often pair up and do anything. I know there have been such acts before, but generally today we're all, like I'm in my house when I do my videos. I'm back in the back room, banging one
Yeah.
out, and then we don't have generally a lot of. There's no fraternity of impressionists that I know of, but we sort of created one. It was part of the script that we all were all pals, and so we invited them all over to the set, and we said, so it's impressionists, and we're all friends, and and we sort of created this artificial. Fraternity of people that
Yeah.
do this. And in fact, there is a lot that binds us together. So it's a very sweet and very charitable relationship. In other words, I find that the impressionists that I've been working with lately are very generous people with their talent and with their admiration and with their willingness to help and be, our show doesn't pay anything. So,
Yeah.
if someone agrees to be on our show, they're basically giving us a day of their life for very little money, and if any at all. And so, they're doing it because they want to further their career, of course, but they also enjoy playing. And so it's been really, really fun. And I hope to do a lot more of it. In fact, I've started doing in my live impression show, which I do once a month now in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I've started inviting people to participate in it and be a guest star on it, to do a little improvised set or whatever. Last month I had Ross Marquand on, and
Yes, I
that
saw
went
that one.
very, very well. And I've got that posted up on my YouTube channel, his bit. And next month I'm going to have, in April, I'll have Piotr Michael.
Oh, great.
And I don't know what we're going to do, but he is so gifted. I'm a huge fan of Piot's, and I always have been. So we'll have some fun there, and so it's cool.
Yeah, that's great. Moving on from that, with obviously you're saying with the
So We're,
sort of
we're
fun
both
you've.
wearing, just to interrupt, we're both wearing orange today. We didn't plan it out ahead of time, did we?
No, we
We're
we
both got
I'm
the
sure we
polo shirt.
didn't.
No, we didn't at all. In fact, we barely got the appointment together with the time change. But anyway, I'm wearing my 20th Century Fox
Oh,
cap,
that's
which my dog has chewed the brim of. But anyway,
that's a plug. That's a great plug there, Jim.
yeah.
Very Ricky Gervais.
I wore this today at Disney, and I felt like, oh, have I done is this a fashion faux pas? They're going to frog walk me off the lot, but nobody said a word.
I forgot where I was going with that now. What I was going to say, Jim, is which links us basically to what you were saying about the sort of fraternity of impressionists. Essentially, the Soul Pancakes Impression Guys is a comedy show, but to me, if from my understanding, there's an element of realism to that. Was that intentionally portrayed, or did it
Yeah,
actually happen by mistake?
yeah, no, I didn't have by mistake. Nothing happens by mistake on that show. No, Ben Shelton, who wrote and directed our season, is a really terrific writer, and he knows a lot about people, and he thinks deep thoughts, So he didn't want to just do a fluffy. I mean, we could have just done a grab-ass kind of sketch comedy show with a lot of impressions, and obviously none of us were too fired up to do that. There's lots of
Yeah.
them. I'm an older person. I've kind of gone through my crazy anything for a laugh phase long ago, and
Yeah,
I'm interested in.
I find a lot of impression shows are too broad for me. There's the main one we've got over here is or the main impressionist is John Coleshaw, very good impressionist. I don't know if you've heard of him, but it is very broad with him, and I like the realism and the story behind the impression guys. That's what really sold it to me.
Yeah, yeah, and also that comes also a little bit of influence from Soul Pancake itself, which is a
Yeah,
kind of a positive YouTube channel that doesn't indulge in a lot of cheap stuff and is, honestly trying to kind of cheer people up or inspire people or motivate people and, not in a silly saccharine way, but in a good way. And so we are that blend of, what Ben likes to do as an artist, what Ross and I like to do. I think that raised the bar as far as the quality, and so we enter in human things and we try to make it real. Like if a person betrays you, how do you feel and how do you respond? And if you're suddenly jealous and it's awkward,
yeah.
we explore that a lot. And so
I found it quite a heartwarming series. Obviously, I watched episode 6 this evening. It was a bit late when it came out for me last night.
mm,
And oh, the shock cliffhanger at the end, I was like, oh,
yeah,
whoa, what's gonna happen? There needs to be a series two. But I really liked I really liked that about the show. Oh, I'll have to put a spoiler alert up here
yeah.
anyway. Perhaps we won't. Yep, in case anyone else hasn't
Hashtag
seen
watch
that.
out.
Yeah, so we won't go too far into that. There was a fantastic storyline that I really enjoyed in episode 2, which is a very grey area among impressionists, and I've heard this discussed by numerous impressionists, doing the impression of said celebrity in front of them. And I loved the way that was tackled with Breaking Bad's Matt Jones in episode 2. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh, that was very funny, and that does come out of I've never Ben tied it in with, well, it's part of this 12-step program that you would have to confront a bad impressionist, and it's completely
Yeah,
ridiculous. So, but yeah, I've been around, and I'm sure Ross has too. You've been around people, and everyone's praising this other person's impression that you consider to be just like, oh, that's just terrible, and what do you do in such a case? And of course, the right thing to do is to do nothing and to acknowledge that person and to flow him as much admiration.
yeah,
There's a costs you nothing, gets you in no trouble at all. So we decided in our little show to do what's the bad thing to do, and that's to take him down a peg, or And so Matt Jones has graciously agreed to be the target of that, and doing his not a bad Russell Crowe, but my character thought this is just an abomination. For people that have seen Gladiator, how can they put up with this? And so it makes for a pretty cute moment that I think a lot of actors and impressionists would identify with.
yes,
Shakespeare talks about it. I think that's what Shakespeare means when he's talking about. He knows what he means, but I think that's what he's talking about in the to be or not to be speech. He's got this laundry list of things that are, basically the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Among them, the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes. It's like, you son of a gun.
yeah. I was. I'm sure a lot of people, obviously, who follow yourself, will be shocked by the outburst. But obviously, it was all in good sorts. But it was very well
Yeah,
portrayed.
it's fun to do. It's fun to do these extreme emotions and to act out like you're a uh, Anglo person as I am. I'm Anglo American. You're Anglo, I guess. I don't know. I stumbled. I don't know what they call you, but you're in the British Isles. You're in the UK, right?
Yes, yeah. But I think I told you before. My great 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 uncle was 20th president, James Garfield.
Oh, did we have that discussion? I'd
Yeah, a
forgotten.
couple of years ago, I mentioned it to you, I think,
Oh,
yeah, in
oh,
passing.
incredible.
But
But
yeah, so I've
anyway,
got a
all I
link
need
there.
to say about that is that our culture shares our cultures share a certain reticence to
Yes,
rock the boat.
yeah,
So it's nice to act out and get angry and pissed off like you wouldn't necessarily do in life.
definitely, definitely. When Ross actually did his Matt Jones impression for Matt Jones, the reaction on that was, oh, it was like, how is he going to react to this? As I'm sure that's the case with anyone who does impression of of a celebrity for the one. Have you ever broached that subject? Have you ever done a celebrity impression for the person? I know obviously Ron Howard
I
is aware of
yeah,
your Ron Howard.
Ron Howard is aware of my Ron Howard, and he's very gracious about it.
Yes,
I've done it for him knowingly and unknowingly.
yeah,
I did it. He came to a show I did one time, and they called out his name, and so I sort of had to do it. But I make it a policy not to do impressions
yeah,
in front of anybody that if I can help it, because unless it's in the spirit of good fun and they're ready for it and they don't really care, because it's a bit of an evaluation of the person,
yes,
and so. Also, we don't hear ourselves as other people hear us. So even if I did a really spot on one, that's not how they sound to themselves. And so
yeah.
I try not to do it. So I would never have made the mistake that Ross's character had made. By the way, he did a really great Matt Jones
Oh yeah,
impression,
spot on. Yeah,
and that was pretty great. And Ross is a terrific impressionist, as anybody who's seen the show or has seen his viral videos. He's got several that went viral,
yeah,
and he's an actor. He's a really terrific actor. I think if you watch the series and just look at Ross's performance, it's very nuanced and very convincing and moving. It's a beautiful job. I've been a fan of his as an actor for a long time, and so it's great to be able to play and very easy to be able to play with him, considering we don't have time to rehearse really, or
yeah,
most shows you'd get a script and it would be about 23 pages, 30 pages. You'd sit around, you'd table read it, everybody'd work on it, they'd go home, they'd work on the scene for the next day. We don't have that luxury, we've got no money, we've got no time. So we are like holding this monster script and just going through it all out of order and just like looking at it, 5 minutes before we go in, and relying a lot on just sort of intuitively knowing where we're going and knowing what beats we have to hit and improvising quite a bit.
yeah.
And he's very easy to work with that way.
Yeah, that reminds me of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm told their script is a very thin script. Larry basically said, "This is what's going to happen, and suit yourself, improvise." So I can imagine that being very similar to that.
Yeah, I've not been on Curb, but I've auditioned for it several times, and they give you something that looks like a giant fortune from a fortune cookie. It's, Larry is sitting in the dentist chair, and you walk in as a delivery person, and you think he's the dentist. That's your clue, and have a good time, you know.
That sounds like a good episode, actually.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Okay, if we could go on to basically how you first started doing impressions. I'm sure everyone would like to know the history behind it. I mean, it's not something that most people would know how to approach as a subject. But how did this all where did it all go wrong for Jim?
I don't know. I just very interested. My mom is an actress, and I liked to. I learned from her that it's fun to play with your voice and to play with accents, and that you can mimic other people, and then that's a fun way of playing. And so I used to do it with my friends, and I never thought about it as a profession, although I admired it when I watched it in the 70s. I'd watch it on TV, and Rich Little and these guys, Frank Gorsh, and these TV personalities. But I never thought, oh, I want to be that guy in the powder blue tuxedo on the Carson show. I never had that thought. I always, in fact, I didn't come around to performing until I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Because I was a visual artist. I like to draw. I was a kind of introverted person,
Yes.
you might say, I'm perfectly happy being by myself. I mean, it's nice that you're here,
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
but
Thank
I,
you.
I'm perfectly happy being alone and spending time alone and creating on my own. And it was later on when I got into improv in New York City in about 1984 that I found that my ability that I'd sort of developed on the side of being able to imitate people and imitate voices
Yeah.
was very valuable
Yes.
for improvised shows. And I was, in high demand, which was great. You want to be in high demand as an actor, and I was in this
Yes.
little world of improv. So then I went, well, if people, and I noticed then, because you get in front of audiences and you see what they respond to, and you go, people really like impressions, and so, okay, I guess I better give them a lot of that. And then that was what really started it off. And then I found that there's a whole bunch of little ways that you can make money doing that in
Yeah.
unexpected ways, and not just doing shows, but and not just being, well, now here's the impressions, but trailers and behind the scenes things and animation and lots of ways in which that skill set comes into play and makes it then valuable for having an actual career at doing it.
Yes, actually, just looking at your IMDb, I've noticed there's about 7 computer games in my son's room that you're actually well, actually voiced on.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of games, a lot of
Yes,
games.
yeah. So that's another avenue. When you do an impression as opposed to a voice for a computer game, for example, how do you approach it? Is there a mindset? Is there a strict routine you follow, or is it in your head? So
Yeah, I'm sort of always starting from scratch.
yeah,
I'm well practiced because I get asked 4 or 5 times a day
yeah,
to match a voice every day.
yeah,
So even on the weekends, so I am always kind of thinking that way and always kind of listening and always trying to access my vocal instrument. And like when I listen to you talking, I can analyze it, and there's a bit of a depth to your voice that I don't have. And although mine's still a little bit higher pitched than yours, you've got a deeper voice than mine. You've got this lovely accent, and you've got a certain sort of little bit of gravel to your voice, and I can't even do you justice. But so I'm thinking along those lines.
yeah,
I don't have a particular way of going, okay, well, let's look at volume first. Okay, let's look at the character's impact. How much do the words impact? I don't go through that. If I'm really having trouble figuring it out, I might kind of, I don't know. I tell you what, the most valuable thing for me is to try to just be that guy.
yes,
Like today, I was doing Kevin Costner, and I'm looking at the scene he's playing in on the screen in the little dubbing room there at Disney, and it's very difficult because you only have 3 or 4 words that they want you to do, and it has to have the emotion of the scene,
yeah,
has to come in at the exact right time, has to match the motion of his lips on the screen, and yet it has to carry the the feeling of what is the meaning behind his words. It's a very tall order to squeeze in just a little few seconds. And I found it very challenging because I don't think I naturally sound very much like Kevin Costner. So I was trying to match this kind of little bit of air that he has, and also the sort of, he's got a kind of this, what I would call a kind of a lazy California accent. And it was very challenging. So you just look at it and study it and try to be the guy.
Yeah, that was one of my other questions. I was going to say this. It's not just about doing the voice. There's in my mind there's a science behind the voice. Where the voice comes from in the mouth, the nasal cavity, the back of the throat, the shape of the mouth. Accent's obviously a very important thing. Like on your George W. Bush video, which is a tutorial video, you actually teach how to do that and where to press again with Robert De Niro.
That's right.
Oh, great.
Close off the nasal passage just a little bit. Just a little bit, yeah. Well, yeah. And really that's all trial and error. And Morgan Freeman, it's the same sort of general area, but it's that closed off nasal passage to some degree, and also the depth of the voice and the way that you appreciate the hell out of the words.
That's great. Morgan Freeman's been one of my challenges. I've tried working on that, but I've noticed a lot of people make the mistake of going constantly low with Morgan, because sometimes I think Morgan goes quite high. But then obviously he goes low. But obviously, it's getting certain words like he may jump an octave in certain lines, in certain parts of the words again. So there is more than just doing the voice, and again, his facial expressions as well. Fabulous one that I like by yourself. There's two actually with the facial expressions: Robin Williams and George W.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both. Well, and that comes from just sort of being the guy. I mean, if you're Robin Williams, you immediately have to start being a little more active. You just have to your face is sort of tense because you're wondering what you're going to say next. George W. Bush, I think you just sort of squinch up your face. Helps a lot. I don't know. The great Frank Caliendo, the truly great impressionist Frank Caliendo said, George Bush always looks like he's looking in the sun.
Yeah. And yeah, that's right. I've seen Frank Caliendo. And another impressionist that I quite like is Kevin Pollak.
Pollock, yeah. Kevin Pollock is terrific.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's I don't know what it is. There just seems to be this huge admiration for impressionists. Is in the last few years I've noticed it's taken off a lot more.
We've taken off the endangered species list, which is lovely.
I think there's just something that people love about hearing someone else's voice. Who's this?
I thought you knew. I where he came from. I thought you sent him. You didn't send him? I came in a box today.
No.
That's so strange.
That's okay. You can send him back.
Yeah, we'll send him back. This is my dog, Ollie.
Hi, Ollie.
Hello. How are you?
He's just talking to me about.
Oh, has he got a bone?
No, he doesn't have a bone. Anyway, here, why don't you...
Why does he have a bone? Why did he bring a bone?
Another thing I wanted to ask you, Jim, is about how some voices I find that you could link so many impressions. An example, like I'd say, of three voices that are very similar to me would be John C. Reilly and Ray Romano, and then probably Kermit the Frog. So.
Yeah. I suppose you're right. They all depend on they raise the soft palate or something back there. Ray Romano has a very kind of lackadaisical, I would say, almost kind of lazy way of talking. Whereas John C. Reilly's very energetic, right? So it's very similar. And then Kermit is even higher than that and more pinched if possible. It's almost cartoony because he was a cartoon character.
There's two that I've often thought of linking as well. Would be President Obama and William Shatner. I think they've got a very similar sort of stilted cadence.
Yeah, that's true. The stilted cadence of Barack Obama. Look, we are going to talk to everybody and get consensus. And at that point, Mr. Spock, we will have attained our goals. There's definitely a similarity there.
Yes, I thought there'd be the link, and I'm glad you could demonstrate that for me. Couple more questions, for you, Jim. Sorry, there was one other thing going back onto variations. I like how in the Impression Guys you do Jack Nicholson, but you've got 70s Jack Nicholson, 80s Jack Nicholson,
Yeah.
and modern day. So is that hard to keep up with the change in people's voice? Is that something that you try and work on? You try and keep current on impressions?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a piece that Ben lifted directly out of my show with Jack Nicholson. Uh, yeah, I mean, people do change a lot, you know, and because I know how much my voice changes from
Yes.
day to day. I definitely notice it. I'm um, not always the same, and people, of course, as they age, 10 years or more, and their health changes, their physiology changes, and of course, you know, we remember them a certain way, but. Um, like Jimmy Stewart's another guy. Well, you see the early movies of Jimmy Stewart. Of course, he's a very young and active guy. Well, it's only later that he becomes an elderly person, and the sound changes. And that's the same with Jack Nicholson. You know, we're just a little more tightly sprung when we're younger. All the sinews are really, well, they're all moist and ready to go. Later on, things get more floppy. What can we say? You know, nature takes its course. So it's fun. It's fun to nowadays with this great digital age that we're in with YouTube, you can watch young Marlon Brando, you know, at age
Yeah.
20, and you can watch Marlon Brando a week before he died, or you can watch Orson Welles in the entire span of his career, and it's actually fascinating to cover a person and to be able to do that. You know, we've never in human history been able to do that, to take this material and really observe an artist or a public figure and say, well, what was he like then? Let's look and see what he had to say and how he expressed himself, the body language and all the things, and the look in his eye, and then compare it over the decades.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
really a wonderful historical and diagnostic kind of tool. I think it's marvelous.
Yeah, I think we're really gifted with the medium such as YouTube now. I mean, obviously yourself as well. Obviously, you've got a lot of or fame from YouTube. Again, as well, America's Got Talent,
Yeah,
the reality
good.
shows now. How did that affect you in your career, Jim?
Well, not very dramatically, but definitely positively, and in a
Positive.
nice kind of, you know, I'm actually more comfortable with a sort of a gentle rise,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know that I've had those, and they're a bit frightening because
Yes.
you're so out of control. You know, I've had a couple of things go viral, and you're like, what did I do? How do I make it keep going? And then you know
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
like, what just happened? I don't know. I have a feeling that I've just been somehow made rich and robbed at the same time. But so this America's Got Talent thing introduced me to a world audience again.
Yeah.
Said my name because you know, I've had very big TV commercials. I've had parts in big movies, but people didn't necessarily know who I was.
Yeah.
So this was nice. They said, "This is Jim Meskimen," and I'm like, "Okay, that's definitely worth something." So, and everything is sort of getting in line now. I have this show, The Impression Guys, and things are getting in line. And you know, people like yourself and other people are contacting me, and I'm making friends all over the place. And all those has it's a nice accumulation.
Yeah.
It's not a overnight success, but it's definitely moving in the right direction. So now I'm trying to get out more and do a lot more performing, reach a lot more people, do more projects, and you know, people if I tell people, you know, hey, I was on America's Got Talent. They said, oh, that's right, I saw you. You know, and it
Yes.
just
Yeah.
establishes a little affinity. But it was a rough experience. I wouldn't recommend it for the weak stomach.
Yeah.
Uh, they don't, you know, they don't treat you like a celebrity on that show. They treat you rather like the person who's bringing in the sandwiches. So
Yeah.
it's definitely something you got to steel yourself to. Have you thought about being on Britain's Got Talent?
No, I don't think I'm quite there yet. Maybe in a different medium, perhaps. We've got X Factor over here.
Oh, okay.
Possibly try that. I think I've sent you a couple of my songs before, mainly jokey ones, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think I'll. Obviously, the impression wise, they have had a few impressionists on Britain's Got Talent, and there have been some quite good ones. It's not really. I think in America it's a lot more popular, but hopefully, with the aid of this video, we can open the British public's eyes to to some more impressions and get that more of a sort of a praised art form over here.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
That's great. Just one more thing, Jim.
Yeah.
What is next for Jim Meskimen? What are your plans?
Well, as I said, I'm concentrating on getting some new material together. I'm sort of wood shopping or wood shedding, as they say, testing out new material in my live show to take on the road. I've got some new management now, and we're pursuing a lot of interesting possibilities with public speaking, corporate events, and other
Yeah.
shows. And so I'm doing that, and then I'm promoting the Impression Guys because
Yes.
so far the response has been really, really good. So we're hoping to do more.
Great.
And I would just like everybody who likes impressions and this kind of stuff to watch it and enjoy it. It's really for them. It's not, I don't think, for a huge audience, but it's definitely for people that like this sort of thing.
Yeah, oh, that's great. And most importantly, will we see you performing over here in the UK? More particularly, more possibly
Well,
Wales.
guess I'd like to. If I have tentative plans to come to London, to come to Cornwall,
Yeah.
and hopefully to get over to Edinburgh this summer. So we have to gel those plans, but it would be lovely, and I'll certainly let you know.
Definitely. Well, try and make a stop over in Wales as well.
Yeah, I'd love to come to Wales too.
Yeah, I actually have about 10 minutes from where Richard Burton was from, and Anthony Hopkins.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Great Richard Burton. I was just watching, talking about YouTube, you know. You can see the entire lifespan of the great Richard Burton on YouTube. It's early days. It's marvelous, marvelous.
Well, Jim, it's been a pleasure allowing me to interview you. I'm sure the fans will love this video. There's one more thing before you go.
Yes.
Would you do me a walk-in and a Ricky Gervais?
And by the way, yeah, Walken, you want a Christopher Walken, the most imitated American, probably, since Richard Nixon. Fine. What a guy. Two little mice fell in a bucket of cream. The first mouse gave up immediately, drowned. Second mouse didn't give up. Eventually, he churned all that cream into butter, walked out. I'm that second mouse. Here's the third mouse. Hi there. Hey, it's Doggy Gervais. Hey, well, cheers. How are you? Hi, Doggy Gervais here. Yeah. Oh, thanks so much for calling. I appreciate it. Yeah. You didn't bring a bone, did you? Not a bone at all. Nothing, eh? Bad manners. Oh well. Doggy Gervais. Wow.
That is classic, Jim. Again, well, I just want to express my gratitude for talking with me today, and
My pleasure.
and again, your friendship over the past 2 years, and the random conversations we have, and the advice you give.
Anytime.
That's great.
See Impression Guys, y'all. I hope you enjoy it and see you around.
Yeah, and yours for a series too.